Hey guys, how you doing today?
Good, man.
Pretty great.
It's episode 31 of the Medellin podcast.
Woo, there we go.
And it's going to be a fun one
It is.
because we're going to be talking about marriage, visas, children's, hospitals, stomach bacterias.
There we go.
Deep. We're going deep. And it's a very, very special episode, and you'll find out why just in a few little seconds.
Yeah. What are we drinking today, Joel?
Right now we're here drinking some gin and tonics because you know we go low sugar or we go home. We've been doing that for a while now, hence the incredible VODs. Trying to get James there too, eventually he will. And by the way, we've got sitting here in the hot seat, James Lindzey, aka James Bond. Okay, what else you go by, James?
Just James.
Just James. We got just James.
Not fire crotch?
No fire crash. Not that one.
Taught him everything he knows.
All right, welcome to the Medellin podcast, episode 31. My name is Andrew Messia, and to my left, I've got Joel Duncan, photography.com, Dunkin' Donuts, and all them Wakanda nicknames you got too.
I got a whole lot of nicknames. Not you guys won't learn that until episode 100.
You're sporting your African shirt. It looks kind of like an African shirt.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Like your dashiki.
Ethnic. But yeah, this is actually a local brand called Fuera de lo Común.
Fuera de lo Común.
And I think Andrew's wearing Fuera de lo Común too, and so is Felipe. As you guys know, we support local. And on these shows, we try to, expose local stuff. So don't worry about buying a whole bunch of clothes before you come down here. You'll find really cool stuff here, high quality clothing for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and that's actually something that surprises most people when they travel down here is that clothes here is actually good quality and cheaper than usually in the States. Yeah. Obviously, if you go to the mall or like they're in Beverly Hills or something, you're definitely going to be spending a lot more money.
Yeah, episode 31, it's all about fashion.
It's all about fashion.
James here.
No, we don't have to. We have Tad on the Tad on the Medellin podcast.
There we go. That's it.
Yeah, episode 31, we have James Lindzey here sitting with us. And why is this going to be a great episode? We're going to talk about how we met and all of that. But basically, James did the first visa for me to stay in Colombia many a moon ago. We're going to ask him how he met us because I can't remember. I think one too many gins. And a lot of people, when we did Alan's episode, Andrew, you remember, we got comments saying, I wish if you guys talked a lot more about visas. Right. And, people really want to know because they want to come here or they're here and they don't know much.
Yeah.
They're reading a bunch of different there's hearsay all over. So we think it's great to have you here. And you are, as Andrew said to me today, he's like, thinking about it, it's like we consider ourselves more or less, sort of like first wave pioneers here, but we're not because you were here before us. And that's one of the big reasons why we think it'll be great for you to be here and dispense some knowledge.
Yeah. So introduce yourself, Mister.
Okay, I'm James Lindzey. Sometimes people call me Tad. That's a long story, but I came down here to Colombia in 2005. I was in Bogota for a year. Didn't like it much. I don't like the cold weather. I'm from Florida. I came down here in 2006. In 2007, when I really started promoting, doing legal work and visas down here in Medellin. Only problem was there were really no foreigners down here.
2007?
Yeah.
Okay.
I came in at May in 2006, but 2007 is really when we started getting going with it, with the business. It was slow at first, but really, I guess, when was it? After the financial crisis, 2010, 2012, things started picking up,
Yeah.
But, and I used to manage a lot of apartments with my wife. We had Paradise Realty. But, I want to do something that was more specialized, so I kind of defaulted back to doing legal work. I was a private investigator in the States. I helped my mom defend people.
Really?
Yeah, we defended people that were up against death penalty charges in the States or were in prison. We were doing appeals for them. My mom was a big human rights activist, so that's where I got my legal experience. So we started off just doing visas because there weren't many people down here. I mean, I think immigration told me in 2006 there was only like 50 to 70 gringos down here with visas.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
actual
Okay.
residents. You know,
50 to 70.
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
nobody.
Any idea of what that is today?
No idea.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Colombia's not too good with statistics. You know,
Yeah.
so.
You got to take what you get with the statistics here. I quote from
Right.
2015 tourism stats still in 2020. So.
yeah, there you go. At any rate, yeah, I mean, I started promoting more of the legal services, and people started coming to me with more complex situations, like, you know, how to get a divorce, how to create a business, you know, what I do in this situation or that situation. We steer away from criminal cases just because down here it's a little crazy sometimes. You end up getting your life threatened or something. So, you know, we focus on commercial law, immigration, and some family law. We could talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, came down here in 2005, and I lived in Bogota for a little while. Didn't like it, the altitude, pollution. It was cold, and just, you know, not as laid back a place as Medellin. You know,
Yeah.
Medellin has it's a big town, but it's like a small town.
But why Colombia? What brought you even to Bogota in the first place?
Good question, man. No, in the early 2000s, I went down to Brazil. I was living down there in Hollywood, Florida, and then I met a girl from Bogota.
Okay.
You know, and we ended up moving down to Bogota together for a little while, but I just couldn't handle Bogota. She stayed up there, and I came down here.
Still in contact?
Once in a while.
Okay.
Once in a while. She's married now, so, you know.
Life's good for her though? Did you leave a good impact or you?
Yeah, life's good for her. I mean, she finished a college degree down here, got married to another gringo a little while ago, so she's doing fine.
That's fine.
She found
That's
a
good.
replacement. It took her about 12 years, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there we go.
And I like how you throw the word gringo around for those of you who haven't listened in to other shows before. Don't get all offended by the word gringo. We're all gringos. I'm from Canada. And other folks, you know, even Europeans, anybody here.
I'm Colombian,
is
and
Colombian.
people call me gringo just
Gringo.
because I
Yeah.
grew up in the States.
Exactly. So when we say gringo, we just mean non-Colombian, and it has nothing to do with race or country. And so
Right.
James is throwing that around, and that's the way we
Actually,
speak.
James,
Well,
I
yeah.
think you used to call yourself like the gringo paisa.
Yeah, man, and then everybody else was saying it too, so I
Yeah.
just stopped. But
Saying that they were the gringo paisa.
Yeah.
well, you know, I'm a gringo paisa. I'm a gringo paisa, and everybody's like, haha. But when I first came down here, and before I got here, you know, some of the family members of my ex-wife were calling me gringo, and I was getting offended. I'm like, oh man, everybody's calling me gringo, and then I got down here, you know, people you know yell out gringo in the street, but it's not like as you know, they don't say it really in an offensive intention. I mean, sometimes people do, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I got used to it, and now I just call myself a gringo. And I when I talk to people on the phone, I'm like, "You remember the gringo you met the other day, right?" and they kind of laugh because I'm kind of talking about myself in a slightly offensive way. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
So,
So
what year was that when you first got here?
2005.
2005, and then we met. I think I remember meeting you at a party or something, because Joel had invited me to go because you had invited him.
That's right.
It
was your birthday party.
It was at your birthday party.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was a good party.
Yeah, and that was like 2012, I think.
What was it?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
12 or 13.
Yeah, 12 or 13. Yeah. So and now here in Medellin, where do you live?
Up by El Tesoro.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up buying an apartment from a guy I used to manage his place. You know, it's nice up there. It's a little cooler at nighttime, and if you know the times of travel, the traffic's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Yeah, you pull up here in a car. You're like the first guest that came in a car. You have to find parking over there. I'm like, wow, this man's high class coming in here in a car. We're just we're Uber generation down here. And so you threw a lot of names out. When you first came here, we go back to 2007. You said there were 50 to 70 people on a visa, and you decided you're gonna offer visa services and some other things. How did you start that company, or what did you register a company and said, okay, this is a legal firm, or what was it? What was the structure like?
actually at first we just added an economic activity onto our real estate company. So under Paradise Realty, I had tramites or gestión de negocios, like business consulting services. Just something real general. Wanted to see what was going to take off.
So the first thing was a real estate company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you doing with that real estate company? Helping people purchase or property management?
Yeah, we started off with property management. That was the easiest thing to do. And my current wife, she did a lot of footwork because we figured out that if we went up to the doorman with the gringo, the prices were twice as high. Right? So, it was just a matter of time, just walking up to all these doormen and asking for apartments that were available. But yeah, it was property management, and we focused on furnished properties.
Okay.
We got started in it, and then the 2008 crisis came, so it was really kind of flatlined. There weren't too many people wanting to travel. But, once people recuperated from that, probably around 2010 or so, we started seeing a lot more people start to come down here.
So I got a question about that because I'm just thinking about it. To put things in perspective, if you remember, back in 2008, even to 2010, you don't have to go as far back as 2007. Do you remember when you were renting a furnished apartment, like a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, what the price was back then for somebody coming to spend a month in a furnished place?
In that poblado, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it was cheap. It was really cheap. I mean, furnished. I mean, a real economic one, I think we were right around $1 million pesos for a studio, or maybe even 800, 900, I can't remember. It was really cheap.
But at that time, the exchange rate was a lot different, too. We were talking 1,800 to 1 back then. Now it's 3,005 more like today. Yeah. So it was still pretty, I mean, you're still talking well over 500, $600 for a studio in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I came in 2011. I remember my first rent, I paid 900,000 pesos for a room in a 3-bedroom in Envigado. And it was a nice room, it was a big spot, the Jesse's spot. Right. And 900,000 at that time was what? Probably $450, right? Or less, 450, $500. Right now, a studio, how much would a studio you think go for, a furnished studio in Poblado?
They've gotten up there, man. I'm telling you. Well, actually, where my office is now, I just bought it, and it's a block away from Parque Gutierrez, and they were renting just a studio, not even a 1-bedroom. 55 meters. It was rented for $3,200,000 per month.
So $2,000, just under $1,000 US.
Yeah.
Furnished though.
Yeah, furnished.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, prices have changed a lot, and they continue to go up. Although, back when you started, there was no Airbnb.
Right, and Airbnb I think it's good for the actual property owners, but I think it makes things a little more. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I think it made things more complicated for property managers.
Okay.
It's easy for people to charge back or to complain, but you have to provide a higher quality service.
Yeah.
But then there's people that know how to work the Airbnb system. They're kind of scammers. They kind of make it hard on the property managers. When I was in there was only three operations in town that were bilingual. It was First American Realty. There was Andrew, the apartment Medellin, and us. And that was it.
I remember that.
So
because I wrote all you guys. I think that's how I met you guys. Actually, I wrote the three of you emails one day when I'm like, I need to figure out how to stay here.
Right.
So I think I reached out to you, Andrew, and Rich. And I don't know how we ended up talking. I actually just can't remember. I was going to check my email to look at the conversations. But I know I started talking with you and started talking with Andrew. And at the time, that was 2012, early 2012.
Okay.
That you said you could help with the visa, and I came to that apartment that you had, that big open apartment that you guys used to work out of. And you guys did my first visa.
Okay. Cool.
Successfully. I had to go to Canada in order to get it done and complete and something. Now you don't even have to leave the country.
Yeah.
Back then I had to do like a country hop to get out of here.
I think you had to legalize some papers or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get some special stamps up there.
Some special stamps in Toronto and I was really, really nervous. I was really nervous because I didn't really feel like I had 2 feet to stand on, because I'm like, how am I even getting this visa? We'll talk about my first visa and all that after. But what happened with the real estate company? Is it still going? Do you still do furnished rentals?
Paradise Realty, right?
Yeah, what happened with
Well,
Paradise
I just
Realty?
kind of let my wife run that, and she had kind of taken a break because she had the baby, and the baby's 2.5 years old now, so she's getting back into it. And I'm just focusing on real estate. I mean, I'll buy and sell a couple pieces of property here and there.
Yeah.
But I just like focusing on the law firm side of things. I do get I'm working on an agricultural project right now.
Okay.
Involving avocados. But we can talk about that some other time. But doing some side deals. I help a lot of people manage businesses down here too.
Okay.
A lot of times I just help people get started. But because it's a different animal down here. The concepts are the same, but then you got a Colombian twist on it, with the labor laws.
A good old Colombian twist.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. If you don't know, you will know if you're coming here
labor
and
laws,
planning to do business here, have employees. It's not.
Actually, that's a good question. So, you as a business owner, I know that a lot of the people that listen to us and a lot of the people that read, for example, my blog, I have a blog post about business, like how we started business and stuff here. And going through the process, going to Chamber of Commerce and, paying employees, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think is the hardest part in Colombia, I guess, of running a business for you?
Well, there's a few things. I think that sometimes people overestimate the amount of money they can have coming in through your company because they've been running businesses in the States. And they just think, okay, I'm going to get this restaurant up and going. It's going to be, there's going to be all kinds of money coming in. And then the other thing is the not doing a market study. And just assuming that Colombians are going to have the same taste buds as
They're gonna love spicy Jamaican,
spicy food.
So, and then you can't handle black pepper, by the way. And if you're coming down here and you Caribbean, Indian, whatever origin,
please bring your own spices.
Bring your own spices, and it's gotten a lot better. But
and invite us over.
Yeah, they'll even have like a spicy, like the chilies on the side of the thing, like a 3 chili, and you're like, oh, that's gonna be nice and spicy.
Our kitchen's like a spice store.
Yeah,
basically every time he goes to Canada, he brings back a crap load of spices. We're running low right now, actually.
I've tried. Like, I sincerely have tried, and it's just way too much for me.
Yeah, as a Colombian, it's too spicy for you.
It's way too much. And I tried. Like, I remember, I almost passed out once at a Mexican restaurant. Wait, hold on. With one drop of the spiciest sauce.
One drop.
I put on my finger. I was like, no, I'm gonna like train
your taste buds.
Yeah. And I got shivers and then
like cold sweats. Yeah, I've had that happen before. Yeah. All right. So as far as business goes, for what you do, apart from the real estate side, the stuff that you focus on, which is the legal stuff, would you say that right now you're getting more clients than ever, or less clients, or how's that going?
I think I get more than enough. There's a little more competition now because there's guys like Alan and there's another guy, a couple other attorneys down here working. And
Gutierrez brothers.
Gutierrez, he's just Colombian, but there's actually a couple American guys down here, working.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, there's a lot of people coming down here now, and I think I was counting in our system, in our accounting system the other day with the accountant, looking at the different services that we've offered. I just kind of, when you hit the ground here, you got to find something to do, or you're going back home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I just basically killed myself, working for over 10 years down here, and we just offered anything we could think of. And it started with the most simple things, as like translations of documents into, going into more complex divorces and whatever. We have like 250 services we offer.
Wow.
So if something's not doing well, or there's, we're not getting the clients for divorces, we're getting like maybe child custody, or, we're creating companies. So there's all kinds of stuff that we do.
Yeah. What are the number, call it, let's say top 5. And those are the things I think we're going to focus on. What are the top 5 services, if you can go with that people require of your company? And what's your company called?
Well, there's Colombia Legal and Accounting, where we handle legal cases, and we do some accounting for people too. And then there's Visas by James.
Okay.
Which
is rebranded because it used to be called
Visas y Trámites Internacionales. But that was a Spanish name.
You can't even say. I don't even know what he just said.
Like, even in Spanish, I can't remember that.
So but everybody down here just
was that your URL also?
Is it?
No, it's ColombiaVisas.com.
Okay, Colombia Visas.
So ColombiaVisas.com is your URL.
Yeah.
That's a good URL to
That's
have.
a great
yeah,
URL.
yeah.
Well, one of the advantages of being down here so long before
Yeah.
everybody else got here, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the other one is MedellinLawyer.com.
Okay. Wow.
So-
MedellInLawyer.com.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I got the domains covered.
Yeah.
So, that helps a little bit. But basically, if you break apart our business, I mean, probably 30% of what we do is visas. 40% is focused on commercial services. So it might be legal services for creating a company or drafting contracts, labor contracts, or it could be, I'm offering services, basic services on how to run a company, how to administer your company here in Colombia. And then aside from that, it's the civil stuff like family stuff like child custodies, marriages, divorces.
But are you talking about
prenuptials.
foreigners that are in child custody, that are dealing with child custody, foreigners that are dealing with divorces and stuff? There's that market here?
Well, yeah. Well, sometimes it's not really that the guy has a kid down here. Sometimes it is. But what happens is a lot of times a guy will find a beautiful young lady and she's got a kid that's 8 years old and the dad disappeared, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's trying to
Be the dad.
be the dad, and he wants to be able to get the other guy that's a low life out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them are low lives, but a lot of times it's what happens. So.
Right.
So that's where the demand is. So and we start finding this stuff out when we help a lot of people get married or do civil unions, and then like, oh, by the way, I got this situation with my wife to be, my fiance, she's got this kid.
That's a
Yada,
nice
yada.
upsell, right? You're hoping
Well, yeah.
you're hoping they say, yeah, and she's got a 10-year-old. You're like, 30% more. Yeah, that's good.
It is. Honestly, I mean, the visas are a way to help people out, and a lot of times, there's some simple visas, but with the new president Duque, I mean, I don't know if it was him or just a natural progression over time, but I've seen the average visas in Colombia turn into they're required twice as much paperwork.
Yeah.
But lately, they've cracked down on stuff. So
Yeah. So I guess on that note, what are the type of visas?
Top
Type of visas that you guys do?
Well, we get a lot of guys doing retirement visas. That's always one of the more popular ones. Then there's education visas, student visa just to study Spanish, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's popular. That's probably the easiest one. And then there's the retirement visa.
Well, sorry, you just said, and something that you guys didn't know, but we were talking about, James mentioned, is you were saying that the majority of your customers, your clients, are 40 plus?
Yeah.
40 years old
Exactly.
now. So you're not helping the 19, 20-year-old, 25-year-old?
Every now and then, we helped a couple guys, exchange students, come in and get some visas for studying, actual regular college classes, not just Spanish,
Yeah.
But that's true. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe the younger guys are just,
Winging it.
winging it,
Yeah.
and trying to do it themselves because they don't have much money in their pocket to pay for legal services.
Which I think is absolutely crazy. But as far as I'm concerned, that's crazy, craziness. So you said, get back to it. You said retirement.
Retirement, student.
Yeah, retirement student. Then after that, we get marriage. I'd say that would be the next one. And then we used to get a lot more people creating companies. I created actually over 300 companies in the last 5 years.
Wow.
So and we're just doing a whole bunch of them at first, but now it's turned into the more complicated visa. I mean, at first you got to put money in there, but like a long time ago, they just asked for a certificate from an accountant. And they didn't even ask for bank statements or anything. It's just like the easiest visa. And now it's actually the most complicated.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and then there's taxes and you have to have an accountant. It's still, I mean, if you're going to actually do a business, then it's recommended. I mean,
Right.
But if not, there's a lot of expenses there. But sometimes people don't have a choice because they don't want to get married.
Well, so just stick a
Okay.
pin on that for a sec, because you said because they don't want to get married, and you said marriage visas are one of the most common. So for those of you, this marriage visa thing, which we'll talk about a bit more about
Yeah,
the
in
technicalities
detail,
of that, but one of the biggest things is once you become married or common law here, like you live with a person, you
Right.
can prove that you've lived for X amount of time, which you'll
Yeah.
talk about. You can go and get your stamp, and I think it's 5 year. How much is 3 or 5 year visa? You get like boom right away, and you don't have to leave here. You can live here full time if you want. And so a lot of people People do it in the U.S. also.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I've been offered, I think $20,000. I was offered in Canada to
Yeah.
get married to a Mexican girl, so she could get her visa. So it's the same thing here, except you know. For some people, it's literally a friend, a female friend will do it for them, and they'll, you know, pretend that they're a couple. And legitimately, some people do. But when you have no option, like you don't have a business, or you don't have a bunch of money to invest in a property, you have no other option. When 6 months down the line comes, you're like, all right, and I was there. I was in that desperation moment where I remember sitting with my friend. I won't mention her name, but we're sitting in the car, and I'm like, I'm running out of options. And she's like, well, I'll do that for you. And I was like, I thought about it overnight, man. I legitimately, I had about an 8-hour sleep, and I was going to pull the trigger and do that. And I didn't do it. And we'll talk about that after. But so this marriage visa thing, it's not that people are coming here and they just want to get married and like this is the place of marriage. It's like,
Yeah, it's a lot of the time it's out on necessity.
Yeah. And a lot of younger guys get in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Don't have any money. I mean, I came in on a marriage visa, and then my first wife, we got a divorce, and she wouldn't give me the papers. So I couldn't go. I didn't know where the divorce papers were because I just was here for a couple of years, and I didn't know how the system worked. And then, so when I tried to get a new visa, they wouldn't give it to me because they wanted a divorce. But that's a long story. Anyways, you get in this situation. If you don't fall into the criteria, if you're not studying Spanish, or if you're not buying a property, if you're not creating a company, you don't have cash. A lot of guys get themselves in that situation, and you kind of might be jumping from one fire into another one.
Yeah.
Because you got to be real careful who you sign papers with, because that kind of stuff turns into extortion too. So.
In what way?
Well, for example, if you're, heard of a bunch of guys basically getting married with their working girlfriend, And when I mean working, it's not a regular job, right? We're talking about
Working the streets.
Working the streets, And then later on, they're like, no, you need to give me 500,000 pesos, It's like turns into a payment, $200, later on down the road. You want to renew your visa, and they're like, give me $3,000, or give me a couple
fees.
$1,000 right now. I'm going to immigration. We get
Subscription fee. You're paying the subscription fee.
Yeah, subscription fee.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what happens in some cases. So let's go back to the list, right? We're talking about the popular visas, right? So
Retirement, student visa, marriage.
And complicate, you said, more complex.
The business visa. Yeah.
Yeah, business visa. If you're lucky, you have some money to buy a property. There's 2 levels for that. If you're spending right now, it's you're getting up close to $200,000 to get a permanent residency visa for property.
No, my brother's looking at doing that. It's about $150,000 now.
There's one that's a 3-year visa. So depending on how much you invest, right? But those are great visas.
So let's talk about those, because those are good, right? So let's start with the first one.
Okay.
The first one.
So we're going from the list 5. We're going to talk about the
these
5th
ones
one,
he's
which is
mentioned
the
up
real
to now.
estate one.
Yeah.
Or which one do you want to
Which
start
is
with?
the first one you mentioned?
He mentioned the retirement visa.
Okay,
first.
so let's talk about
Yeah.
the retirement
Okay.
visa.
Okay.
So people want to come
Well,
here.
can you get the Tanqueray and the soda water?
Yeah, keep going. But let's talk.
Very important
so talk
for me.
about the retirement. So somebody wants to come here.
Yeah.
And retire. What's involved there?
No, the best. If you're getting a Social Security check every month, we'll just use the United States as an example. We have people out of a lot of different countries, but
Right.
basically it's about $800 a month will qualify you for a visa.
Oh, really?
With $800 a month, you're not going to do very well in the States. So,
No, you
Would you do well here? Would you say with $800 a month?
maybe not in Poblado where we're at right now, but if you're living out in the country or something, right?
Okay.
Or
Or even in like one of the lower income level neighborhoods in the
Some
the
people
city.
are even living in what they call the Strata Tres, right?
Yeah, like
the Zone
Medellin.
3,
Yeah.
or they can get a roommate, right? So some of these guys are pretty frugal. And medicine's a lot cheaper down here too, so that's another attraction.
Right.
But if you have a Social Security letter that says you're making $800 more a month, right? That's for 2020 right now with the exchange rate the way it is. Well, might be a little cheaper at $800 right now because of the coronavirus. So, the exchange rate is about 3,600. right
Today,
now.
yeah, it's all-time high right now. Well,
Yeah.
nearly all-time high. I think 3.8 was the highest I've seen it.
It got up that high? Okay. But anyways, yeah, I mean, Social Security letter has to go through a legalization process. The easiest way to do that is through the embassy in the the United States Embassy in Bogota.
Okay.
So we use a messenger that runs the papers in, and thanks to Trump, it used to be a free service. Now we have to pay $50 at the embassy, and they'll create a letter in Spanish on
It has to be in
embassy.
Spanish.
Well, to be received by the visa people.
Okay.
Right? So you just have your regular benefits letter from Social Security, and you send a copy of that with your passport to the United States Embassy in Bogota with the messenger, and they'll give you a letter that you can use to apply for the visa. Okay. Now, as the visas have been getting more difficult lately, sometimes they'll ask for 6 months of bank statement. So
To show that you're actually receiving that 800
right.
plus.
Okay.
it just depends on the visa official. Sometimes they'll just accept a letter from the embassy and they won't ask for bank statements, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So that means you might have to wait that you've been receiving your benefits for 6 months at least, you know. But that's one of the best visas to get, really.
But why is that? You get that? How long are you? Is it lifetime? Once you can keep showing, or like what is that like?
It's a 3-year visa typically. I mean, very rarely. I mean, if I think a visa official's on a bad move, they'll give someone a 1-year visa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then at the end of 3 years, you can renew it for another 3 years. And after the 5th year, you can apply for a permanent residency visa. You just have to show that you've been down here. You haven't left the country for more than 6 months.
Each year.
Each year, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And that's so that's why. So you get a lot of folks. And by the way, in the U.S., because I'm Canadian, but a lot of those folks that are retiring and are collecting pension, or what? How old, more or less, is that?
Well, 65 and up. I mean, you can. We're just talking about Social Security there, but you can be getting a pension from the city government. Like we had some firefighters come down from 9/11. You know, those guys were like 42 years old when they got their retirement visas.
Wow.
But yeah, typically someone's got to work a while in order to get those benefits. What the important thing to know is that the U.S. Embassy in Bogota will certify pensions from the federal government. So if you're getting a pension from the city or the state, it won't work.
Okay.
And that means, someone like an ex-DEA agent that might have been working in Colombia, he would have a pension, and maybe he won't want to come back down here. But but we've got guys that are like in the armed forces, the Veterans Administration, or like the Postal Service. They work for they get letters from what's called the OPM, Office of Personnel Management. But all those are federal agencies. Anybody that's been in the Army, it's got veterans benefits, get those certified in Bogota too.
Oh, that's amazing.
So your company does all that for the client.
Right.
And so what does the client have to do? Just show up and sign papers, basically?
Well, they got to make sure they've got a passport that's got at least 2 blank pages, and 6 months before the actual passport expires, they need to bring us, the only thing we need is a copy of the pension letter.
Okay.
It's got to be less than 3 months old, because for some reason they don't like letters older than 3 months.
And is that cost of that particular visa? Does it vary per person, or is it a fixed fee? Because I'm assuming each case might be unique. So do you charge a unique? Do you have to? Is it like a standard price that you can throw out there and say, like, currently we charge X for a retirement visa?
Yeah, well, we have a little special now where we're doing the visas for $300, but we're also opening up a bank account for retired persons with no additional fee, and the government fee is $282. But the sending a messenger up to Bogota, the round trip with that is right about $100.
So about $300 plus another $100 to do the delivery.
Including the embassy fee and messenger fee and all that stuff.
You trying to take half their month's $800 for the damn visa? Yeah, no, once that's done, it's done.
Well, it's better, like you said before. You pay the professional to do it right the first time, so that you don't fuck up and then have to go do it again, waste your time. It's just
I don't understand, because, for example, like a younger person that's hip and witted and trying to learn the language might they want to be a little adventurous. Somebody that's been through life. I mean, if you want to come down here and live, you better be having that 300 plus call it $500-600 to set you up for 3 years, and not go trying to fill out a form in Spanish and paying somebody to translate and doing it by yourself. It's like it's a rounding error. It's not even that much money to pay to make sure that people. You guys have done. I mean, you've been doing this for. Do you have any idea of how many people you've helped get a visa?
Well, I was doing a backup on my computer last year, and we passed 1,000 visas. You know?
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you've got
You
some
got some
experience.
experience.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
That's a good
time
marketing
flies.
thing. And speaking
you
as
know?
marketers, I
Over
think
a
on your
thousand,
website.
yeah.
Over 1,000
We've done over
successful
1,000
visas.
visas. Yeah, that one should be front and center.
Front and center.
Yeah.
Getting
Above
old,
the
man.
fold.
Getting old, but you know, hey,
Getting old.
it's all right.
Gonna have to do your own.
Yeah, James is out here.
Yeah, pitch a visa.
James is out here massaging his knees as he's speaking. I'm
like,
like,
oh,
dang,
man, my
man,
knees,
I hope
man,
I never
no.
like that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Okay, so the retirement visa, I think we covered
Yeah.
the stuff there. For those of you that are retirement age and are looking to get your retirement visa done, make sure to go to James' website, visasbyjames.com.
No, it's
Medellin visas. No, Colombia visas.
Yeah, simple.
Colombia visas.
Colombia
Visa.
visas with the S, and
an S.
remember, there's no U in Colombia.
Yeah, it's COLO.
yeah.
COLO.
We're gonna put it up on the screen anyways, and in the notes, we're gonna put it in a larger font for those of you who are over 65 and can't see.
The larger font.
Larger font. Yeah, we're putting a large font.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we could do that. I just made that up.
Yeah.
And so the second one is
We went retirement visas and then
We're
you said
talking about student visas
it's
too.
the student visa. It's the second one.
who's
yeah.
coming to you for this student visa, and are they legit? Because I heard some real crazy shit. People like, yeah, they're here on a student visa. They can't speak one word of Spanish.
And they haven't gone to one class.
Not one class. So what about talk about this student visa and who's getting that?
Well, first of all, Colombia is not too good with regulation. You know, I mean, they're good about passing all kinds of laws and making up all kinds of fines on everything.
Yeah.
But enforcing
I
it?
mean, yeah, enforcing it. I mean, if it wasn't, put it this way, if it wasn't for the cameras they put in the streets, they hardly give out any tickets, right?
Right. Yeah.
The cops put all the money in their pocket. But okay, back to the student visa. What happens is there's a rule where they're supposed to take roll, you know, and they're supposed to report it like the hotels do. They're
Right.
on the same system.
Okay.
The universities are on the same system as the hotels, and they're supposed to report attendance every day. But it doesn't really happen like that. So, and the smaller schools, I've heard, are, you know, more flexible.
Okay.
You know.
More flexible, meaning pay me our tuition and you
Or
don't have to show up.
they don't want to be too tough on their students because they might lose all their income.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The small guys. You know, the big universities might be more compliant with that. And I guess it depends on what the government's priorities are.
Yeah.
Immigration loves to go after people that are working illegally, but you know that maybe the student visas aren't their biggest priority.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of schools here in Medellin. There's the big universities. There's the small language shops. You know, and it just depends on the structure you want. But
What are those?
Yeah.
What's the duration and stuff of those? Like, what do those look like when somebody gets that?
you can get a class, or you can get a visa for as little as a month.
Okay.
They take you more serious. You put more time down. The big thing about it is, I mean, those classes, the university wants you to pay. You know, if you pay 3 months, they're going to give you a letter for 3 months saying that you pay for 3 months, and that's how long they're going to give you the visa for.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller places might take like a down payment, you know? Okay, give me 3 months and I'll write you a letter for a year, you know, that kind of thing.
Just to get you in the door, just to get that money.
Yeah, and they're pretty expensive. I mean, Spanish classes are pretty expensive down here. I had a guy, he went to cosmology school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a technical school. He already knew Spanish, but he got a visa, and his classes were only like $20 a month, you know? And you're paying for Spanish classes, they're trying to hit you up for like $300-400 a month, something like that, right? So just a little idea there, but
300-400 more or less per month for classes.
yeah, I haven't quoted it lately. I could be a little off. I think some places like Toucan, you know, up the road here,
Yeah.
they throw in tourism stuff, and people seem to like it because they got a lot of activities too.
Right, yeah.
But I think they're more expensive, yeah. But the universities, UPB and AFID are the big universities down here in Medellin. You know, you can look them up and you can call them. They've got that part of their page in English, and we've got people
Yeah, I'm
responding.
trying to throw that
So if I'm like someone in the U.S. or Australia or whatever, and I want to come down here, do you think the student visa is the easiest one to get out of all of them?
Yeah, sure. You just gotta have the money to pay for the, you know,
For the
pay
class and everything.
And they want to see that you've got money in your bank account to support your, you know, expenses
Yeah,
and things
your
like
life,
that.
yeah.
So wait a second. So sorry. Step back on this student visa. Andrew asked a great question. Because there's two different types of folks. There's a person that's like, well, I want to go down to Colombia and I want to spend some months learning Spanish, and I'm going to go to a school, right? Technically, correct me if I'm wrong. When they fly in here, let's say they're not registered or anything yet. they're going to be given 3 months anyways. So they don't need a visa. They can be on a tourism visa for the first 3 months if they wanted to, right? So they don't have to come out of pocket for anything just yet. If this person's studying over there and they're like, yes, I've booked classes with AFE, the university, and I'm flying in, and at that point, they're telling the person at immigration, here, I'm here for classes, here's my registration. At that point, are they getting like what visa are they getting in their passport when they're coming in with already registered?
Well, yeah, no, that's a good point. They used to let people study on tourist visas, but now they're making people get an actual education visa if they don't have some other kind of visa. They don't want you to have a tourist visa or tourist stamp. Because what you're talking about, when people come in, they can come in with just their passport. It's not every country, but all developed countries like United States, Canada, the United Kingdom. Those guys come in, they get a stamp, they don't have to apply for a visa. But when you go to class, they might give you a week or two to finish fixing up your visa,
Okay.
But they want to see a student visa.
Okay. But technically, somebody could come, like, I'm interested in learning Spanish. I can come in here, I can get a tourist visa, stay here for 3 months, renew that visa again for another 3 months,
Yeah.
stay for 6 months, and a month or two before my 6 months is up, I can say, and this is very common, people are like, man, I want to stay here for another 6 months, so I'm going to register for Spanish classes
Yeah.
for another 6 months.
Yeah.
So they go to AFIT or whatever, and they say, okay, yeah, I'll pay you for the 6 months, because they can afford the 300,
Right.
400.
Uh-huh.
If they can't afford that, go to the smaller
Plus
school.
the classes, yeah.
Yeah, plus the classes,
Oh,
plus
yeah.
whatever else. And they have to demonstrate. So what you're saying, back to what you're saying, is
Mm-hmm.
that now they have to demonstrate, because I don't think it was like that before. You're saying they have to demonstrate that they have a bank account to support themselves while they're here?
Yep.
I don't think that wasn't like
Or a
that when I
parent.
got
No,
here
it
in
wasn't. It wasn't
2000,
picky. No, it was. Yeah, everything was much,
It was a
much,
free-for-all.
much more easier. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or, if you don't have money for Spanish classes, what people do is they just find a girl to get married to or do a civil union, which we can talk about that later.
Right.
But yeah, typically if someone's here, or, if you come in at the end of the year, right? I mean, if you come in like in August or September, you can stay until, the year.
Ends.
The year ends, but then you got to leave the country and come back in to kick in the full 6 months for the next year.
So you could technically, that's a great, and by the way, I think we talked about that before. For those of you who want to spend a year in Colombia, for example, and trust me, if you come to Medellin, you will want to spend a year.
Most people do.
Exactly. So backtrack from the end of the year, you come mid-year, right? Come mid-year, go home for Christmas and visit the family, kiss mom and dad, and then fly right back in on January 1st if you want to.
Yep.
And then spend another 6 months. So it's a great tactic to come mid-year, go home, check out, even border hop to Ecuador if that's what you want to do, and come right back in, because the visas, your legal amount of time here resets on January 1st. It's calendar year, you're allowed 6 months, right?
Right. So it's the limit is 6 months in one trip, and also the other limit is you get 6 months in a year. So to take advantage of both those rules, you have to right before you run up your 6 months of the first year you're here, you got to leave the country and come back in. I mean, it can spill over. Like sometimes people come in, they're here 5 months. Like 2020, say I want to be here 5 months in 2020, and then maybe I'll leave like on January 15th. You leave January 15th, go to Ecuador a few days or Panama, and then come back. Even you can just stay a day and come back, and then you got 6 months again. But you just have to remember, when you get to the end of 90 days, you got to run into the office, the visa office, and apply for an extension.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess my last question on the student visa is, let's say I'm someone, a foreigner, and I want to come in on a student visa, or let's say I've run out of options or I've run out of time with the just visiting, coming in and not having a visa, and I contact you. I haven't looked up any classes or anything. Will you guys set up everything for me? Like, I don't want to do anything. Just tell me where the classes are and I'll go and whatever, or do the people usually do the research first and find the classes and then reach out to you?
No, we don't schedule the classes, but we have the information. A lot of times I just send the website to the university to the people, and with phone numbers so they can communicate with them directly. Because since they are language centers, they always have someone that speaks English. So it's
Okay,
not a big deal,
that was
right?
going to be my next question. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I hope so. Yeah.
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 And what's the age range? Like, what's the average person coming for a student visa?
Oh man, no, it can be. Well, shoot, student visas. No, it's pretty much. Well, there's a kind of limit. I think when a lot of guys, when they get older, they get over 50 years old, they kind of get stubborn and they're not,
Into
they
learning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to learn.
Yeah, I learned all I could learn. Yeah.
My mind's closed.
Yeah.
No more
Yeah.
space in there.
Yeah.
It's some of the guys have money. They just prefer to use translators everywhere they go, right?
Right.
But
Dang.
some guys try. They try and then just kind of give up. They don't want to go to school anymore. But
Yeah.
a lot of those guys come down here. They got some extra cash. They're not really interested in having a real relationship.
Yeah.
They just prefer to pay for the relationship. They're like, why am I going to pay for Spanish? I don't care.
Yeah, I don't need to learn that. I
got
don't want
money.
to talk to her anyways.
Yeah.
I got money.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, these visas work for the student visas work for other people too. I mean, I've had some gringos come down here and pay for visas for people from Africa, to come in just to get them out of Africa.
Wow.
You know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but there's good people out there too,
Wow.
So and then we get guys, like I said, exchange students come down here. We just have to get letters from their parents and saying they're paying for their their schooling. But
So just to summarize that, the one thing is, so you get your student visa time is based on your length of registration or the letter that the university or the school gives you saying that you're going to be there. So if a smaller school, we would call it the gray hat or black market visa. So you get the small school, you paid them for 3 months up front, but they're going to write you a letter for a year. Your visa becomes a year-long visa. As a student visa, you get stamped in your passport.
right,
correct?
yeah, generally that's the case.
Okay.
All right.
And just as a small print down below, I just like to tell everybody that nothing stays consistent here in Colombia. Things are
Nope.
changing all the time. I can go to an immigration office here in Medellin, and I go to one in Bogota, and they're going to give me different answers on stuff. They have different interpretations. But generally speaking,
On that note, for those who follow this, and a bit about my story based on last episode and some of the other like 29 episodes before that, the first visa I got with James was for 18 months. It was an 18-month visa. I remember it clear as day. And I think back then it used to be called a TP7. Or now it's a 7. It was a 7 or a 4. I remember it changed.
what?
And
7, yeah.
it was a 7.
TP7, right?
And you told me, hey, you can set up this visa as a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
So I set up this company, and at the time I was dating a girl whose family were very influential in the government. So I did the business setup on my own with her. There was mountains, seas of people waiting, and we walked through the front door, and it was like this. I went to the Cámara de Comercio. They set it up. I didn't speak any technical Spanish to do that. She just went with me. She was bilingual. The aunt said to speak to this person in the Dian, which is where you go to for taxation, get your tax ID number, then go here. And we spent literally took me a half day to set all my stuff up with this girl, and I was very fortunate. So my business was set up already, and I came to you, and you said, okay, you're a photographer. I had this business at the time. It was called In Focus Studios, like In Focus the camera, which still exists. And they gave me 18 months, and I thought all was cool and clear. And then I remember you sent me a message saying, oh, by the way, you got to renew your visa. And they changed the laws. You're like, they changed the laws. And I'm telling you, I'm in struggle mode. My first year and a half here was struggle mode.
Well, that was what, 2013 maybe?
2013.
Yeah, they had a big reform in
Yep,
2013.
and you said you can no longer be a sole proprietor. You can't
Right.
be Joel working here as a photographer. You have to become a company.
A company like
Right.
a corporation.
Like a SAS is, which is what it's called here.
Yeah.
And that through my life, honestly, in a
loop,
crazy loop. That's
Yeah.
what made me want to get married.
Uh-huh.
Because you told me the requirements, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, Joel asked me if I would marry him.
I asked Andrew. Andrew turned me down, man.
Yeah.
He could have been my spouse. But yeah, man.
You gotta buy me dinner first.
But literally, these changes happen. You could think that, because you told me, yeah, we just renew it when the time comes, blah, 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 blah. And boom, they're like, yep, no more of that. And the rules continue, as James said, and we're going to talk more about it. The rules continue to change. Because there were folks like me, I legitimately wanted to stay here, contribute to the economy, do something. There were dudes with money. It's like, yeah, I'll set up a business, go over to James. There's this fake business that I have. I'm there on a business owner's visa, but they never conducted
Right, like
one
an audit.
day of never did
No.
business. Never did
Right.
business. We know that.
You had good intentions.
Yeah.
It was hard to
It was
hard to develop the business without speaking Spanish,
But
right?
no, but it sucks when you're trying to do something legally and we do things above.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
And it's
we
expensive.
get beat down, man.
Yeah.
And then
It's
there's a
expensive.
dude over there that's doing
It's
some.
like doing shady shit.
Yeah. But it's good that Colombia is reformed that, because one of the biggest things, and then I eventually the next year, like whenever I remember Alan did done the visa for me, but I remember them saying that, hey, 1 year after I got the visa, Alan and them were like, hey, can you show me movimientos, which is like movimientos, or like movements in your bank account?
Yeah.
Because then the government
Transactions.
now wants to see that you did transactions. Back in 2012, when I got that visa, they didn't ask for shit. We did something where we had to set up some, what was that thing where you can move money and you had to show like $5,000 was in an account. It was called, it's the, where you move foreign currency.
Yeah. It would help you out with a wire transfer.
Yeah, those people. That's the only thing I did, but nobody did any sort of checks.
Well, even before 2013, they sometimes just ask for a certificate from an accountant.
Yeah, that's it.
Now they want to see it all, So,
Yeah.
and they're typically just giving out a 1-year visa now. After you have a 1-year visa, they want to see that the company's been actually like moving before they give you a 3-year visa.
Yeah.
They call it movimientos, right? So they want to see transactions, invoices, expenses. They want to make sure, right? So it turned from the easiest visa into the most complicated.
Yeah.
But if you have a real business, it's a good option.
A very expensive option, which we can get
It is
to the cost
expensive,
later,
yeah.
but it is a good option if you legitimately want to do business here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyways,
So we went over the retirement visa, student visa, and we're getting into the real estate visa, right?
Well,
Or-
he's kind of jumped into the
into
business
the
visa.
business.
Let's jump into
Well,
business,
before,
huh?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Look at dinner with your real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. I mean, basically right now, if you're gonna do a business, or if you just have extra money and you don't mind throwing it around, then this is a good option. So the most popular type of entity down here is called a SAS, S-A-S. So it's an anonymous shareholder corporation. It's the most recent type of corporation they created down here. But you gotta be careful because there's a lot of taxes. Sales taxes are 19% for most things. If you're exporting programming services, you can get away with that. If you're outsourcing to an American company, you don't have to pay that sales tax. So
That's what we do.
yeah, so that's a good one, right? We get a lot of call centers down here. I mean, there's a lot of different types of industries. You can go into hotels have a tax break for 15 years, 9%, and agriculture has some tax break.
9% on sales? Or
No,
on revenue, or what?
that's no sales. 9% on income tax as
Okay.
opposed
Okay.
to 33%.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of taxes, but aside from that, basically what the requirement is for 2020 is 88 million pesos for each shareholder that wants a visa. So you get the visa by being a shareholder, by investing, which is about $26,000 into a Colombian company in your name. So if you put this $26,000 into the corporate bank account, you're qualifying as a shareholder.
Yeah.
And then you get the visa, but you also have work permission too, so that's important, right? So a lot of people have a hard time getting permission to work down here.
And that's a very key point, because I've been asked this question before. So if I own this corporation, this SAS, and my brother comes here and he's like, I want to be part of your SAS and I want a visa, we're going to come to employment after. But if he now wants to become a partner in my company and get a visa, he has to also contribute more or less. that $26,000 US.
Yeah.
And it's not just that I can absorb him and I'm like, because people ask me, like, you have a company, can't you? Like, I can be no, you have to come if you want to be part of this company. You got to come and show your 26,000 in investments. It's 26,000 per shareholder in the SaaS.
Right.
Correct.
And that gets adjusted each year for inflation, which like this year, the last few years have been average about 6%. There is a little trick to it though. If you don't have all the money right now, for example, you got $5,000 and maybe you're working in the States and you can put your money into the company little by little. So you can put $5,000 in, which is like, 17 million, 18 million pesos now at the exchange rate. So, you can work your way up. I had one guy, he was a truck driver in the States, and he just, it took him 6 months. I mean, sometimes he would just put down he would buy $300 or $400 worth of shares in the company, and then after 6 months, he literally had 15 transactions, and he got up to that what they call the 100 minimum salaries, right?
Wow. Okay.
And so, I mean, you can do it like that. That's not the cleanest, so there's ways you can work up,
So wait, so you're saying that he registers the business here. He registered, let's say he had $600 when he started. He's got to get to 20-something thousand.
Yeah.
And then he basically just keeps increasing the amount of capital contributed into the business. But
Yeah.
where's this money going? Into a bank account? Or what's
The company bank account, you got to show the deposits. They want to see that when you apply for the visa. And then the other little trick, by the way, is that, if you're not here and you're overseas,
Yep.
you could be getting paid for your services overseas and the company could be, paying you back. Or when you come down here, if you're down here and you're putting money into the company little by little, your company can be giving you reimbursements for expenses, right?
So you get back your own money.
You get back your own money.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not illegal. It's like if I work for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Microsoft was paying me for being a programmer. I'm getting $100,000 a year. I'm like, hey, every time they give me a paycheck, I'm gonna buy some shares.
Yep.
I put some money back into Microsoft, and next month they pay me again. I pull some money
Yeah.
out and put it
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah, it's revolving.
Right.
Yeah, it's just moving
Yeah.
the money
Yeah.
around. Okay, wow, interesting.
So it's a little thing that helps. It's completely legal. So just
And then the other tip, which I think, I don't know if you can still do it, but when I was panicking, that I do not, and at the time it was about 30,000, so I don't know how it's less, but it seemed to be at the
Exchange
amount-
rate.
The exchange rate, yeah. But it's not lucky bastard. It was like 30-something thousand, and I'm like 30-something thousand. I've never
because
had.
They
it was
got
like
up there.
2,000.
the exchange rate was crappy.
Yeah. So it was a lot of money. They were like, I remember I wrote you and I wrote Alan, and everybody's like, you guys are like, well, you got to show $30,000. I'm like, I just burned through all of my savings. I got a little bit of photography, I got my
Equipment,
photography equipment and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And I thought all was like literally done for me. That's why, again, back to the marriage thing. And I sat there and I just, I that's how I work. Like if something gets in my head, I can't sleep. It just keeps going around. And I sat there and I'm like, and I remember earlier somebody telling me that they quote unquote bought a hostel. And that same day I was like, when you say you bought the hostel, what do you mean by you bought the hostel? Like you bought the building? They're like, no, I bought the name. And the time was Tiger Hostel. They're like, oh, you bought the name and the beds and stuff inside. Yeah, but those are yours. But the building, you're renting that. They're like, yeah. So you just bought a name. Mm-hmm. And I literally sat up and I'm like, I took a pen down and started writing. I'm like, fuck it. I figured I'm going to figure out my visa on my own. I literally figured out my visa on my own. I am going to be a photographer that has a business. And I'm going to make a list of every goddamn thing I've ever bought to do with photography and get the receipts together. And because you don't have to show 30,000, just to be very straight.
Like liquid.
Like if you're going to invest in a machine, like a massive printer, and the printer costs you $15,000, but then you can put another 15 in an account, or it's $25,000 and you're going to start printing, for billboards. And then you have so that's 20,000, another 10 in the bank, you can still get your visa. So in my head, I'm like, well, fuck, I don't have any cash. What I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start pulling my laptop, lights, anything that can justify being a printer, anything that can justify being part of a photography business, I'm going to put together and I'm going to make a balance sheet.
Yep.
And I made the balance sheet, and in the end, all I needed was $5,000. Which I didn't have. Anyways, I didn't have the 5,000, but I said I did, and I thought that in worst case, if they asked me to prove that I had the $5,000, I would beg, borrow, and steal, and have somebody throw that 5,000 in an account here, and that's how I got my first business visa with $0.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no 30,000.
Yeah.
So there's ways in which you can get around.
Sure.
And you can move
And
through
again,
things.
right. things have been progressing and getting more difficult. In some cases, the ministry is like okaying people to have inventories that they have related to the business, or we take pictures of a hotel or a hostel and they can see there's a real functioning place. They're like, okay, well that looks good,
Yeah,
It's other times the cleanest thing is to have money going through the company, and then and once you have money in the company, you buy equipment from that.
Exactly.
But that whole, I've had to work with a lot of people like that. They come down here and they're like, they just start buying stuff and building their little restaurant or whatever, and they just spending money out of their pocket. It hasn't gone through the company,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
right.
So it's not showing that it's actually coming out of the company. It's coming out of a personal spend at that point.
Yeah.
So they need advice on that. And so you said so initially now the government's going to say you're going to set up your business. You get the visa's TP4, I think it's called now, the business visa.
No,
the business owner.
well, let's see. Last year or a year and a half ago, 2 years, year and a half ago, they changed all the business. I mean, the visa
names?
codes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got the M for migrant visas,
I see.
and they're not
The
TP.
nomenclature is all changed.
Yeah, TP is a temporary residency.
Yeah.
And the M is now, that's what it is. Still is a temporary residency, but they call it migrant. So these first visas, I mean, if you're studying Spanish, it's called a visitor visa. If you're so I mean, there's all these little temporary visas, which are really usually like 1 year, sometimes they're up to 2 years. The migrant visas where you're actually here, living year round, married, or you're working for a company, those kind of things, right? So and the migrant visas, you can step up into permanent residency. Visitor visas you can't. But so that's just all the codes changed. So all the TP7s, they split them apart because before they had 5 types of visas under TP7. But I mean it's they call it, we just say it's a business owner visa, which is actually it's a shareholder visa, but
And they're giving that for 1 year. So you set up your company, they come through you, they pay your let's say they paid you to do everything the company set up. Which, by the way, if you do not speak Spanish and a high level of Spanish, like I can't, I mean, read Andrew's blog post about the experience on the Medellin Buzz. But honestly, if you don't at least have a friend that's like really fluent and can like talk to the person, or like you have somebody beside you, don't try to do it on your own. You're gonna waste so much time and join so many lineups. Like if you don't speak properly, you could join the wrong lineup.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not,
For
you
an
could
hour.
for 2-3 hours, and you get there, they're like, no, this is not the right line. That's the line, and you look over and the line's like, and you go, oh fuck it, I gotta come back tomorrow. That legitimately happens. Going over to like the Migración Colombia to get your cédula, like your ID card, all that type of stuff. If your Spanish is not good, I strongly recommend, if not James, somebody else's service, that to get some help. Get some help on that. So it's not worth trying to go on your own.
Right.
it reduces stress. I mean, after your first year or two living down here in Colombia, you know what to do, you know where to go. But this is one of those vital things to have. Also, to have a good. The other recommended thing is just to get a good bilingual driver to help you drive around. And get things done.
That's a good tip.
I mean, hopefully after you're down here for a couple months, maybe you have a girlfriend that will do a lot of it for you. But
The legwork.
Yeah. So, but still, I remember way back when my first girlfriend here in Medellin, she didn't know anything about business, So when I was trying to create my first business with her, it literally took about 2 weeks running around everywhere, and nobody knew what to do with foreigners back then either, so that didn't help. But,
Yeah. So I guess to round off this business visa, well, first of all, if I wanted to get a business visa and I'm in the United States, do I have to come here? I want to hire you. Do I have to come here and be here through the process, or can I be over there while you start the stuff and do the stuff here?
Yeah, no, I mean, we can do everything with power of attorneys, right? And,
Okay.
and we
So they don't even have to come here.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a couple weeks longer to set everything up if you're not down here, because you got to get your documents notarized in the States and apostolized or go into the consulate. But, we walk everybody through that. It's actually really easy. You just have to allow extra time for all the mailing back and forth and stuff. And we open up corporate or personal investment accounts down here where they don't even require you to come in person. So
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's
That's
awesome.
not the way it was.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is not the way it was.
That's
You
the
also
route
have to.
that I would take. I'd be like, I'll do everything.
Assuming you have the money.
I'll
As
see you in the
James
summer.
saying, you got a lot of different profiles, different customer profiles.
Yeah,
out
sure.
there.
But we're
Like,
talking about, like, let's say someone that wants to legitimately set up something, or
Yeah.
maybe even like buy property, but also wants to set up some sort of a business where they rent it out, you know. So and they need to buy furniture, et cetera, et cetera. This it could happen. So yeah. So again, I guess the question on pricing, is there like a standard price for that type, or is it just vary because of the business?
Well, when we set up a company, what's important to know is like you just don't pay $300 like you do in the States. You have to. Colombia charges depending on the value of the company, you know. So now, if we're setting up a company that comes with the business license, you know, to open up an establishment on a street corner, for example, you pay about $500 for the business license itself. You know, the visa's $300. You know, you might have some translation and mail fees in there. But our fees roughly for the package is about $1,000, which includes setting up a bank account for the company, set up a personal bank account, getting your tax ID number, the tax ID number for the company, and filing the company with the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, yeah,
You know,
that's pretty
but
reasonable.
yeah, I mean, the whole thing
$1,000.
comes out $1,000 are our fees. The government fees come up to about
Close.
$1,000. Yeah, so
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
it comes out to
$2,000
$2,000 altogether.
Okay.
$2,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a little less right now because the exchange rate is so crazy. But I'm just thinking, you know, in a couple months it's going to come back down to normal. But hopefully, you know, I mean, I'm having fun pulling money out of the ATM.
Yeah,
Right,
feels
so-
good.
yeah.
Yeah, no, there's something I was going to ask about that because, yeah, they're paying you to set up their company, and you're taking all the headaches and stuff away from them. And when you have that visa, though, so you set it up, power of attorney, they're over there. Do they have to be here with that visa? Like, I mean, they probably would want to be here if they're setting up the visa, so they wouldn't. There's no sense in paying
To
money
enjoy it,
and not
yeah,
be
yeah.
out there. So, but what's the requirement on that? So the first year, just to confirm, so you're saying, are you ever going to get somebody setting up a company, and have you gotten that, and right away they get a 3-year?
No, I mean, when they first came out with the, you know, I guess right about 2 years ago, yeah, because
Yeah.
that's when they changed the law. They were giving everybody 3-year visas, and I kept telling everybody they're going to start pulling it back to 1 year. And sure enough, they did. But at first, they were just giving everybody 3 years. But now, if it's a new company, you know,
Yeah, I never got a 3-year. You know, my first 3-year visa was last year, and we did it on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I showed my cedula because
Yeah.
I was considered a resident.
A resident,
at that point. But I renewed my visa every year for 5 years. By the way, a very, 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 very big tip for those of you who are on a visa right now. Maybe it was easy for you to get. It was a 1-year visa or it's a 3-year visa or whatever. Do not let any time, there should be no lapse between your 2 visas. So what I'm saying is if your visa expires, do not let your visa expire. One day, let's say you're trying to work towards residency like I was. I had put in 18 months on a visa that you set up for me. And the rules changed, and I waited too long to start my process to figure out what my next move was going to be. And by the time I figured it out, I was already a month back on a tourist visa because you got to leave and come back on a tourist visa. So I came back on a tourist visa, and I thought that, okay, 18 months, I'd already put in, you know, a year and a half. I only got 3.5 more to go, and I'm going to get residency. Any space between your visa negates everything that you've done before. So what that means is if 5 years, they say you're going to get residency in Colombia, if you had 2 years, 3 years, 4 years on a visa, and then you let that visa expire and you go back on a tourist visa, it counts like you've been here for 0 time.
Yeah.
Like legitimately 0 time.
Yeah,
So it
back to
actually
0.
took me 7 years
Right.
instead of 5 to get my residency.
Yeah.
Yeah, that same thing happened to me too. Because
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I changed wives too. So I mean that was another thing.
Like socks.
Yeah,
Changed,
I was like,
yeah, I changed my life.
oh, you know, I got pushed into a corner.
Yeah.
But my mom said, I believe in marriage if it's for immigration reasons.
Your mom said that?
Yeah.
That should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That should be on your Visa with James t-shirt,
Yeah.
you know?
My mom,
Yeah.
yeah, man, she's pretty liberal, but you know, hey, funny. So yeah, I mean, it's a good point because those M visas, or they were called the TP visas before, you can accumulate time, like with the retirement visa or marriage visa is just 2 years now, but the retirement visa, after 5 years doing renewals, you can apply for the permanent visa. And then after permanent visa, you have the permanent visa for 5 years if you're like a
That's like me, I
retired
got that.
guys.
I've got the permanent now.
If you get the permanent via marriage, you can go for citizenship in a couple years. I mean,
is that beneficial? Okay, so let's not jump.
Yeah,
Let's
well,
jump
we
in.
could jump into that later if you want.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about the. For those of you who are sitting, listening to this, thinking, I don't know how I'm going to stay here, but I've got a nice female friend or male friend that's going to hook me up with the old marriage visa. How does that work?